Hi, PerspectiveWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Friday, November 1st. Quite a frontal passage last night in the mid-Atlantic region, the northeast U.S. There was a squall line that extended a long distance from New York State all the way down to Florida. A line of strong to severe thunderstorms caused some torrential downpours and some damaging wind gusts of up to 50 or 60 miles per hour or so. Every once in a while you get a frontal passage that sets off a pattern change in the atmosphere. Indeed, October was warmer than normal, much of the eastern U.S., and this frontal system almost perfectly aligned with the month transition from October to November. Looks like it'll set off a pattern change that will bring a colder than normal weather pattern to the mid-Atlantic region, the northeast U.S., the Great Lakes region. In fact, it may be kind of a reversal with the western U.S. warmer than normal during November, and the northeast part of the nation colder than normal, which is a flip of what happened in October. Lots of power outages this morning as a result of that powerful cold frontal passage last night. All the states in red have the most significant power outage problem this morning, including Maine, New York State, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. Winds will unfortunately continue to be a problem through the morning hours in much of the I-95 corridor region, gusting up to 40 or 50 miles per hour or so. So we're not in the clear quite yet. Winds will tend to diminish, however, later in the day, and especially after sunset tonight. Well, let's take a look at the month of October in terms of temperature anomalies. This is from Weather Bell Analytics, 2-meter temperature anomaly across the nation for the month of October. A very chilly month indeed for the western half of the nation. A lot of that came in the last week or so with record-breaking cold temperatures throughout the western and central part of the nation. The cold frontal passage that came through the mid-Atlantic region last night in the northeast U.S. ushered in a modified, certainly a modified version of that cold air mass. Nonetheless, quite a change from what we experienced yesterday in the I-95 corridor region. Yesterday's afternoon temperatures and evening temperatures were at or above 70 degrees in many spots, some 25 to 30 degrees colder than that this morning as we begin the day on Friday. But again, for the month of October, warmer than normal here in the eastern U.S., colder than normal out in the western half of the nation, significantly so in many cases. This pattern may just flip around in October with much of the northeastern part of the nation, the Great Lakes, the mid-Atlantic region, the northeast U.S. below normal, whereas the western U.S. could have an above normal month, and we'll kind of get into that over the next few minutes. Well, here's the latest surface map, and that strong cold frontal system is now off the eastern seaboard, but look at the pressure gradient behind it. Still strong low pressure up across southeastern Canada. And all these lines here represent lines of equal pressure, isobars. The tighter the isobar pattern, the stronger the winds. Indeed, there's continue to be a tight pressure gradient much of the mid-Atlantic region. It looks like wind gusts of 40, perhaps even 50 miles per hour or so. Still possible in the D.C., Philadelphia, New York City corridor, at least through the morning and maybe the midday hours. Diminishing winds, however, this afternoon into the overnight as this high pressure system moves overhead, and that will set up a very good radiational cooling conditions for late tonight. Cold air mass in place, clear skies, and diminishing winds. Low temperatures by tomorrow morning will be near the freezing mark in much of the I-95 corridor region, and that'll be the first time this year in many spots along the D.C., Philadelphia, New York City corridor. Yesterday, snow accumulated in Chicago, just as an example. Of course, we had snow earlier in the week in Colorado, then it really extended from Nebraska all the way up to Wisconsin and Michigan, and I noticed some snow accumulations by late yesterday outside of Wrigley Field in Chicago, and their last snow was in the middle of May, so really a short time in between the last snow of last winter season to the first snow of this upcoming winter season. Well, let's just take a look at 5-day averages for temperature anomalies at 850 millibars. This is using last night's ensemble run of the GFS, a 6Z ensemble run. And again, quite a flip coming with this frontal passage in the overnight hours. It looks like we'll have a trough setting up in the northeastern part of the nation that will stick around at least through the middle of the month. And again, I think for the month as a whole, it'll be warmer than normal out in the western U.S., but colder than normal in much of this region. This is the 5 days, the current 5-day period that we are in now. And of course, much, much colder as we begin the day, as we begin the new month. With that frontal passage last night, the cold air over the next 5 days, the current 5 days, will be focused over the northern plains, but again, extending all the way into the southeastern part of the nation. Well, now let's jump ahead to days 6 to 10. This extends from about November 6th to November 11th, and this is an especially interesting time period here, the end of next week or weekend or so. Not only quite cold, but there'll be a couple of clippers we'll have to watch that will drop from the northwest to the southeast across the Great Lakes. Yes, snow is always a possibility in November. Last year, you may recall, we had a quite a significant snow event, at least north of the Mason-Dixon line around the middle part of November. But this is an average for a 5-day period, quite impressive indeed. Again, that cold frontal passage last night was a pattern changer, and it looks like colder than normal for much of the month of November. Doesn't mean every day will be below normal temperature-wise, but on average, I think the next couple of weeks and probably the whole month of November will be colder than normal. The Great Lakes, the Midwest, and Mid-Atlantic region, and the Northeast U.S. Well, finally, let's jump out to days 11 to 15. Now we're getting into the middle part of November. This runs from November 11th to November 16th. Again, that same kind of a pattern here with a trough centered over southeastern Canada, the northeast U.S. This is below normal temperatures out here and above normal temperatures out in the western part of the nation. This is the kind of temperature pattern I expect for the month of November as a whole. And again, this follows a warmer than normal month of October in the east, which was colder than normal in the western part of the nation. So a flip coming from month to month. Well, let's walk through the surface forecast maps from last night's 6Z GFS model. And once again today, winds will be a big factor at least through the morning and midday hours in the Mid-Atlantic region. Look at this tight pressure gradient right here, a very strong low pressure area over southeastern Canada causing some accumulating snow in the southeastern part of Canada. But winds can gust up to 40 or 50 miles per hour or so in DC, Philadelphia, New York City over the next several hours. Skies have cleared already. Expect mostly sunny skies, but a lot colder than it was on Thursday. And then let's move forward here. By the evening hours, this high pressure area moves from the Tennessee Valley to the Mid-Atlantic region, and it sets us up for a very nice night for radiational cooling. Best thing you can have is cold air in place, clear skies, calm conditions, and temperatures will drop. And indeed, late tonight, early tomorrow morning, temperatures should reach the freezing mark in certainly many of the suburban locations along the I-95 corridor, but even in some of the urban areas, we may get down to the lower 30s in the overnight hours. So it marks perhaps the first time in many spots that we reach the freezing mark. Maybe the end of the growing season happens in the overnight hours early tomorrow morning. Then we move forward here, and notice these thickness lines here, the red dashed lines and the blue dashed lines. This blue dashed line here represents a thickness of 540, which is like 5,400 meters in the lower part of the atmosphere. That's a good correlation with temperatures. In other words, the lower the thickness, the lower the temperatures. Here we are Saturday afternoon, and then notice into Sunday, that 540 line drops all the way south and east going into Sunday morning. In other words, a colder air mass moves in to the Mid-Atlantic region by Sunday. And here we go again, high pressure first over the Tennessee and Ohio valleys, and then by late Sunday night, it moves right on top of the Mid-Atlantic region. The bottom line here, it looks like not only freezing conditions late tonight, early Saturday morning, but again, late Sunday night, early Monday morning with excellent radiational cooling conditions setting up once again a cold air in place, perhaps even colder than this air mass. High pressure overhead, clear skies, calm winds. Expect temperatures to be near maybe 30 degrees in many parts of the D.C., Philadelphia, New York City corridor by Monday morning. So that's it for now. A big pattern change has taken place with the patches of that powerful cold front in the overnight hours. Expect colder than normal conditions on average for the next several weeks in the Mid-Atlantic region, the Northeast U.S., the Great Lakes, and the Midwest. That's it for now. For PerspectiveWeather.com, I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.